Hello viewers, in this video I'm going to show you how to do an electrical inspection on your RV so you can avoid inconvenience and most importantly fires. So stick around. Now whether you have a motorhome or you have a towable like a fifth wheel, your RV is going to have a chassis electrical system. In a towable, most of the electrical system of the chassis is in the tow vehicle. The battery, all the wiring back to the RV. Once you plug into that vehicle, then from that cord all the way back has 12 volts, and that runs your running lights, your brake lights, your turn signals, and clearance lights. It'll also lightly give a charge to your house battery. In a motorhome, this is the vehicle. So we're going to start with an inspection of our chassis battery on the motorhome. Now for a battery inspection, the first part of the inspection you want to do is just a visual inspection. So I'm looking at the battery terminals, looking for any green or white corrosion on there. If you see any of that growth on there, take those battery terminals off, clean everything up really well, put your battery terminals back on, and then apply a layer of dielectric grease over the top to coat that and protect it from that corrosion. All right, my battery terminals look pretty good. Another thing, if you have lead acid batteries, you'll see the caps on the top. You're going to want to check the water in there to make sure that you have enough water. This is an AGM type battery. I don't have to worry about that. So now we're going to check some voltage. So if you have a multimeter, be sure to set it to volts DC. Then you're going to get your positive terminal, your negative terminal, and you're looking for roughly 12.5 volts. 12.6. I have 12.5, so we're good to go. Now, ideally, to check these batteries, you want to use a load tester. So to use the load tester, hook to your positive and your negative. It's already showing in the green. Now this is going to put the battery under a load, and as long as it doesn't drop out of the green, then it's good. You can see right below there is yellow is weak and red is bad. So the next part of the inspection, again, it's a visual one. Turn your lights on and then walk around, make sure that all your lights work. And this one's going to help to have somebody that can go behind you and check your brakes and your turn signals. All right, so we've got both headlights, both of the front running lights. Don't forget those clearance lights up there. They all work. Now to check the rest of your lights, this is where it helps to have somebody out back that can watch and relay to you what you see. Brakes. Okay. Left turn. Right turn. Hazards. And there you go. So another electrical tip for you is some of you may have this aux start button on your dash, or it may be on a panel. If you have a panel over here, it may be over here. This connects your chassis battery to your house battery. And if your house battery is dead, you're unable to start your generator, momentarily press that button. My gen start button is right next to it. I can start my generator, let off the aux start button, and now the generator will charge up the house battery. Conversely, once I dropped this off to have some work done, somebody left my headlights on, completely drained my chassis battery. I was able to use this aux start to start the motorhome engine from the house battery. Follow your manufacturer's recommendation. for your particular motor coach if you have this installed on yours. So if you have a motorhome, you're going to want to know where your chassis fuses are. And let me flip around and show you where mine are. So up under the dashboard, you look down on the floor, mine are right there, which is not a fun place for an average sized person to be. So I can't really take you down there with me, but you're going to want to inspect for any loose connections on that fuse box. And if something during your inspection doesn't work on your chassis, that's where you're going to want to look. You may have a blown fuse. If you have a towable, then it's going to be in your vehicle. All right, now let's talk house batteries. In a motor coach, your house battery is most likely under your steps. In a travel trailer, fifth wheel, or a towable, you probably know where your battery is. It's most likely going to be in a compartment towards the front or on the tongue if it's a bumper pull. Now with your house battery, you're going to want to check your terminals. If you see any green or white growth on there or any corrosion, then that could be causing an issue. Take your battery cables off, clean those terminals up really well, clean the battery cables up really well. Reconnect them and then apply a layer of dielectric grease that'll protect those terminals and those cables from that corrosion. So with a multimeter, put it on DC voltage. A fully charged battery has roughly 12.6 volts. So we're going to get our negative, get our positive, and we have 12.4 on this one. It might need a little charge. Now a better tool, so with the load tester, connect to your battery terminals. It shot right up into the green. And now I'm going to put it under a load. And it came down for 12 volts. It's still in the green. It's coming down a little bit towards weak. But again, this battery needs a charge. So I'd call that one good. So your house's electrical system is everything that makes your RV so you can camp in it without being connected to 120 volt power. So think fans, lights, water pump, refrigerator, furnace. These are the things that, while the AC would be nice to run off of 12 volts, it's probably not going to happen unless you have solar. Then you're converting to 120 volts anyway. So for the house system, go through, turn on all of your lights, make sure that they work. Any fans, turn them on, make sure they work. There's a light under there. Think your fan in your bathroom, turn your, okay, my light works on my refrigerator. It's coming on. I don't have my propane turned on right now, so it's not going to light. I would have to test that separate. Water pump, turn your water pump on and make sure that it works. Test everything that runs off of 12 volts just to make sure that it works. Now I've got a couple of compartments over here open because we're going to start with the 120 system, and we're going to start from the outside in. So if you have a generator, go ahead and give it a once over, inspect it, see if you see any concerns that you could take care of real quick, or you might have to call an rvtech in. Starting with your shore cable. If you use any extension cords or any additional cords, make sure that you check them. I use this if we're mooch docking. I have a 15 amp connector going down to a 30 amp. Then I have my 30 amp to 50 amp. and then I can connect into my RV. But you just want to look at each end of the connections and make sure you don't see any corrosion or anything like that. This is a heavy duty electrical cord. And just inspect either end of it, and inspect the length of it also to make sure that it hasn't been run over by a lawnmower or hasn't been kinked or burned, or you don't see any signs of the insulation being compromised. All right, you want to inspect the outside, and then I'm looking at the inside here too. And finally, getting to my shore cable. So this obviously probably gets used the most. You're going to want to make sure that there's no corrosion, that the pins aren't bent, the lever that flips down so you can pull it out if it's, if it's tight as it should be. Make sure that works, and then just start from the end all the way back to where it connects in, and make sure that it hasn't been run over by a lawnmower. Make sure it hasn't been up against, rubbing on the edge of the concrete, rubbing on the edge, or anything like that that could compromise that insulation. All right, to inspect your generator, just pop the cover off, set it to the side. What you're looking for here is pretty much the same thing with a battery. You can see the electrical connections here. Looking for any kind of white or green growth or corrosion. If you do, disconnect that, clean it off really well. A coat of dielectric grease when you put it back together. You should be checking your oil before every operation, and then you should change your oil and your oil filter for these Cummins generators after every 150 hours of operation. Check your manufacturer's recommendations for maintenance intervals. It actually has the service information printed right on the air filter cover. So for this oil filter, check it daily while you're operating it. Air filter, clean at 150 hours and replace at 450 hours. And then on. Check your manufacturer's recommendations for your generator. Another important tool for your electrical inspection toolbox is a circuit analyzer. This one has 2 yellow lights and a red light and a button for testing your GFCI. So right now I've got my generator running. Let's plug this in and see what it says. Okay, I have 2 yellow lights, which according to the label is correct. Now let's test our GFCI. Okay, I heard the click. That was actually in the bathroom. So the way your GFCI circuits are wired, the one closest to the breaker panel has the GFCI button on it, and then the rest of them will trip that one. It's important to know where your GFCI buttons are to reset. All right, now I'm sure a lot of you are wondering how long it was going to take me to get to this one. When you get to be my age, you don't look forward to laying down on the floor. So we're finally at the distribution panel. So this is all your 120 volt breakers, all your 12 volt breakers. So what we're going to be doing here is checking for any loose connections or anything that may cause a fire hazard. So with your screwdriver, you can just take the front panel of this off. And now you have all your wires exposed. And I am not hooked up to a 120 volt source, so I am 99.99% sure there is no power to this 120 volt block. However, I cannot see electricity, and 120 volts can be lethal if it finds the right path through your body. So we're going to check it anyway. 12 volts, my battery shutoff is off, and I know that this should be dead. I'm going to check it anyway. So for the 120 volts, put your multimeter on 120 volts AC, or voltage AC, depending on what type of multimeter you have. Carefully. If you can do this with one hand, it's better because there's no path through you. There's hot, there's ground, and I have nothing, so I'm good to go. For the 12-volt side, what you want to do, get your ground, and then you can test for 12 volts, and I have 0. So I know that this panel is completely dead. There's no electricity running through it. You always want to double check that and make sure. So now what you need to do is get you a screwdriver, preferably with the square tip bit, because all the 120 volts on mine, you could use a flat tip, but the square bit will get a better bite. And just go through and make sure that all of these connections are tight. And you just want them finger tight. Don't go Dolph Lundgren and over tighten and break something, or strip one of these screws out. Okay, those are all good. And then the same thing on the bottom of the breakers. Make sure those are all tight. All right, so everything on my 120 volt side was tight, including these grounds. So everything's good. Now on the 12 volt side, these are all flat tips, so you're going to have to switch over to a flat tip. And then just do the same thing. Just go down through each one, make sure it's tight. All right, and obviously while you're in here, check to see if you see any wires that are burnt or anything right where the connection is. That would indicate a loose connection, and it's been arcing right there. A lot of times you could even smell that while you're using the appliance, whatever is hooked up to that. But definitely be sure that you're checking the connections in your distribution box frequently, at least once a year if you're a weekend warrior, way more frequently if you travel a lot, because these things, as they bounce up and down the road, these can come loose, and that will cause you a fire safety hazard. And there you have it. Inspect your electrical system at least a few times a year. If you're a weekend warrior, then you can get away with spring and fall, or if you do any long trips, you're going to want to do that inspection. If you're a full-timer, then especially after any long trips, inspect it regularly to make sure you're not developing any loose connections or any dangers of fire or, like I said, inconvenience. So if you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave me some comments below if there's any electrical gremlins that have ever popped up in your RV you want to share. Thanks. It has a yellow light. It's going to trip in the morning when you're trying to make your coffee, or in the middle of the night when you... Make sure the 12 volt is off. Could have been smoother.